Welcome. Good evening, one and all. I welcome today's guest speaker, Mr. A. Vijayarajan, to deliver a talk on industry studies session on case study on medical device development and deployment. I, Dr. Vijayalakshmi, take this opportunity to introduce today's speaker, A. Vijayarajan. Shortly, he is known as AVR in our fraternity. Okay, AVR is a medtech veteran with 35 plus years of experience, including stints as head of product development at GE Medical System, chief executive at Wipro Health Sciences, and VP at Hewlett Packard. Previously, he led the development of India's first robotic system for tumor ablation at Perfint Healthcare. We welcome you, sir, for deliver today's talk. And again, I welcome all the students who are present here. Thank you. I over to Vijayarajan, sir.
Okay, thanks, madam. Thanks, Abhishek, for arranging this. I think this seems to be a good initiative in terms of listening to industry people. I heard that the students had 2 other sessions in the last 2-3 weeks' time. So when Abhishek asked me to share industry experience, and we discussed about how do we really share. So we decided, why don't we take a case study, how a medical device development really happens in an organization. So I decided that I will take up one of our leading products. It has got all the ingredients in terms of what goes on in developing a product. So I will use that as a background to provide information about what happens. Now, Abhishek also collected some expectations from the students about a week back, and he has shared with me. Broadly, most of those questions are answered in my the generic presentation which I have, except 1 or 2, which we'll talk about that later. Now, during this presentation, I'm sure you will have questions. So what I suggest is that put it in the chat box. Probably at the end, we will go through them if it is not answered in the presentation. Though I have not rehearsed, I plan to do for about 40 minutes. Then we can keep the rest 20 minutes for question answer. So that's the broad. Let me see whether I can share my screen, and then we can move. Can you all see my screen? Hello?
Yes, sir. I think they've muted.
Yeah. One of you.
It's visible.
Okay. Yeah.
It's visible.
Okay, good. So thanks for the introduction about me. Only one small correction. I have become older. So I have a 45 years of industry experience, not 35 plus. So I'm running in the 46th year now. Okay, so let me just, so what is the case study about? This is a product, we call it a SaaS, for neonatal breathing support device. So we have probably about 400 devices in the field. Assam alone has got about 300 plus devices. So these dots, what you see, all the places we have installation. There is roughly about, in all districts we have, 32 districts of Assam we have. The product looks like this. And this is one of the earliest comment what we got. This preterm RDS neonate is still alive because of the SaaS. My artistic congratulations. This is from Kolar. not very far from Bangalore, about 60 kilometers. And you have few photographs here, how it's being used. And this is the important one, a clinical study, what we did in Ethiopia. We have multiple clinical study. This is the latest one, what we did. So before SARS was introduced in this hospital, 16% of the babies were discharged. It means they became better and they got discharged. And about 85% went for higher level of treatment. Ours is a non-invasive ventilation. So they went for a higher level of ventilation, which means that more trauma, more money, more stay in the ICU. After they introduced the SARS, 82% actually got discharged. And only 15% went for higher level of treatment. And a few people, a few babies, they were stabilized and transferred to different hospital. Or I think one baby went to home with some support. Because our device is actually portable, they sent baby with the device. So this is a device which we will be using as for the case study. Okay. Important enough. So before we go further, a little bit about the company, which we have founded about 10 years back. So we would like to be a leader in medical technology. And the mission is very important. Create a portfolio of products designed, engineered, and priced for emerging markets. So traditionally, some of you probably know that about 75 to 80% of our medical devices are imported. Yeah. So in which we need to adapt ourselves those devices rather than devices adapting to our environment. So we decided that we will design and engineer for our market and price it our market. And my own experience in 1994, many years back, correct? So we had a product in GE exclusively designed for the emerging market. So I have that experience and I know what it means. So many of the multinational companies today, they have a program called in country for country. So they also realize that it has to be developed for the country. Okay. So we would like to measure ourselves in terms of how many lives we are impacting with our technology. So that's dear students, actually listen to this very carefully. It's very, very important. This is the thesis in which actually Inaxel was started. So we all know that when the price goes down, the market expands. Correct? So if there is an iPhone, which is costing 1.25 lakhs, there is a set number of people will buy. But if you have an iPhone with a lower version, probably costing about 60,000 rupees, more people will buy. Correct? Let us say now everybody has got unlimited money. Okay. If there is a phone, somebody will give you money. So will there be companies interested in developing a low-cost version of iPhone? Definitely not, because they will add additional features and then charge more and make more money out of it. That is what is happening today in medtech, because medical technology is either comes from the insurance, rather paid by insurance, or government takes care of most of the developed world. So nobody has got an incentive to make a low-cost version of any product. But what we need is India is a bare minimum, safety not compromised, the quality not compromised, provide the required technology for our requirement. And plus, it has to be for low-skill caregivers and also low resources and poor infrastructure. We all know that we have challenges. And similarly, for countries like Africa, we have challenges. So develop a product for that market. And price sensitive because most of us pay from our pocket. So this is a very, very important thesis in which we have started our company. So we always develop for product and for the problems what we have, which is not getting addressed by imported devices. Now, many of you have asked actually, how does it happen? This is how it happens. Okay, so look at this quote. If I had asked my customers what they wanted, they could have said a faster horse. So we would have never got a car. This is an attribute to Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford car. So this is what actually we do. We go observe problems and try to find the solutions so that that problem can be eliminated. So observe negative outcome, focus on entire care cycle, identify a problem, and what is needed to change that outcome. Okay, there is a problem because of us, there is a negative outcome. Somebody dies, somebody stays in the hospital longer period of time because of this solution is not there, or this particular treatment is not possible with the existing technology available, or those technologies available is not affordable here. So what is needed to change that outcome? So we identify, if you go to the hospital, I'm sure you will find, we have seen in a week, actually, not a week, I should say, but maybe 2-3 weeks time, we will see at least 200 such problems. So we do a filtering and identify a problem which has got the highest impact. Then we start doing the concept generation. Okay, this is how actually the whole initiation happens. Then after that, product development happens. It is highly iterative and incremental, cyclic. So a lot of things are there in that. And in the next slide, we'll talk about that. Such a complex development process from a management perspective, we need to linearize it. Yeah, how do I linearize it? Well, you see in the next slide. And one of the filtering mechanism is this. Typically, it should take more than 3 years to develop a solution, and it should take more than $500,000. Okay, this is what actually we kept, because I can't afford, and more than 3 years actually, by the time that the problem gets solved by somebody else, the problem is eliminated, or anything can happen. So we would like to see that as a boundary is one of the impact mechanism. So what I showed here as a very, very cyclic actually concept to prototype, preclinical, manufacturing, marketing, and just goes all over. So now we have just linearized that. Okay. So we do the proof of concept. We develop something called an alpha prototype. Okay, where requirements gets finalized. This is what my device will do. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. And how do I verify whatever the requirements I decided, whether it will happening or not, that plan is ready. Okay. Then only we go to the beta. In the beta, so we develop the next iteration of the product, and we complete the verification and validation. Okay. So if you look at the alpha version, if you want a number, probably about 60% of the features are implemented. Okay. But in a beta version, probably about 90% of the features are implemented. Okay. And some features could be implemented, but not fully. So that's called a beta version of it. Then we take it for these 3 validation: safety validation, electrical safety, mechanical safety, and so clinical evaluation. So if it is required to be put on the patient, we'll try to do it on the patient. Otherwise, there are mechanisms, regulatory bodies allow us to do the clinical evaluation by literature search method. So we follow that. And then usability evaluation. This is the most important thing. So how, by giving it to the user, asking them to use it, and what we watch is, are they making mistakes which can be detrimental to the patient? Okay, safety is the criteria. Okay, it's not how easy to use, it's actually secondary. Okay, are they making a mistake? So user error versus use error. Okay, probably I should have had that other slide. But let me explain that. Now you have a cone ice cream, correct? And you try to take the ice cream. Suddenly the ice cream falls. Is it your problem or the design of the cone ice cream's problem? Okay, so I believe, at least from my perspective, it is actually the design of the cone. It is not my mistake, it is the design's mistake. It didn't allow me to take the cone the way in which I wanted to take. So that's something like this actually, user error, we'll try to do that. Then after that, we'll do a pilot production. So at every place, actually, we have a gate mechanism where we analyze the output and then decide whether I want to go to the next stages or not. So project management, milestone review, bill of material. How many components I'm going to be using? Are they available easily? What type of vendors are providing it? Okay. And I want to evaluate those vendors. So overall cost of goods. Okay. Everything put together, how much is going to cost to me? And the requirement, we also do a risk management. Throughout, actually, we continue to do risk management. So does it add any risk? And how do I eliminate the risk? But there will be always a residual risk, and that we will tell the users through user manual. Okay, you should not do the following things. So this is how the whole thing, what we saw here, okay, it gets done up to the pilot production, what we call the first unit to the customer. Okay, this is a broad framework in which we work. So we start with need identification, and then concept generation, and then do a engineering life cycle completely to take it to the market. Okay. Now with this, keep this in the background. Now look at the next few slides. Probably you'll be in a position to connect. So this is how it started. So in one of our clinical observations, so we came across a baby brought from a remote area to St. John's Hospital in Bangalore. And in spite of the best effort of the doctor, he's a newborn doctor, the baby did not survive. And my team was there when it was happening. In fact, the baby was brought by the baby's parents and some relatives in an auto rickshaw. So when the team asked the doctor said that they were a little late, so we couldn't really do anything. Okay, so this happened. Now within about 2-3 weeks, actually, we were all in a hackathon. I'm sure you're all familiar with that word hackathon. So it happened in GE Healthcare. So this was being discussed, and there is Dr. Datta from Uganda. So immediately he said, yeah, we do have similar problem. And a lot of debate happened. And then it sounded that it is a global problem. So we decided to take it up and see whether we can do something. So that time what came out clearly is bringing healthcare to the doorstep of those in need. If the baby had not been transported, okay, and this technology, whatever St. John's Hospital doctor was trying to provide, if that had been available in the place the baby was born, probably the baby would have survived. So that's what we said, bringing the healthcare to the doorstep of those in need. That was a message. And that's how we did. Why this technology today is not available, or when we started it's not available? Because of infrastructure requirement. Because these devices which are available meant for ICU setup. Okay, continuous power, compressed air, highly trained resources, all those things. So what we need is, we need a product which can work on our remote areas. When the power goes, it should continue to work. And compressed air is not a must. Okay, can we do, if it is not there, what else available? Will it work with that? Okay, for example, we need oxygen source. And can it work with oxygen concentrator? Can it work with the oxygen cylinder? Or do we need an oxygen plant? Okay, I'm sure many of you would have heard about what happened in oxygen shortage during the COVID time, correct? Every hospital won't be in a position to provide oxygen because they don't have oxygen plant. So that's why the oxygen concentrator came. So can your device work with oxygen concentrator? So some of those things actually we took care of that. Okay, so we did that. So next actually, this in the hackathon, this is a discussion happened. There was actually a person from IIT Madras, and this is Dr. Datta. Okay, and there is a GE guy here. Okay, there was a GE guy over there, and he was trying to give some ideas and stuff. So that's how we worked in that period of time. Okay. Now that time when we discussed, we had a lot of data points. Okay, but I don't have that data point. I'm not projecting that data point because that's about 5 years old. But today is actually it's been presented 3-4 days back. So approximately 1 in 10 babies are born preterm, not necessarily in emerging market, across the world. In 2020 alone, nearly 1 million preterm newborns lost their lives. That is one baby every 40 seconds. Many more who survived will live with some sort of a disabilities. They all required breathing support. If you provide breathing support to this 1 million preterm newborn, probably we could have saved quite a lot of them. This is the case. Okay, we continue to improve, but still continue to be a challenge. But there's another data point. I know how many of you know John F. Kennedy, one of the charismatic president of US. He died when I was like 6th standard, if I remember correctly. So his third son was born premature, 3 weeks early, and died. Okay, he didn't have the technology, or they didn't have the technology to support him. So that's a time actually money really came in to a huge amount of research. Okay, we're talking about 63. Now we're talking about 2023, correct? In 60 years, it has evolved. It has become available widely, but still there are challenges in the emerging market. So this is one thing which we do very sincerely and seriously, need analysis and disease state understanding. So I'm going to show you the actual document what we generated. So to give you an idea, what level of, okay, let's look at the need statement. An effective way to maintain adequate lung pressure in preterm babies with RDS while transferring them from primary healthcare settings to neonatal ICU in order to prevent lung collapse and subsequent mortality. So what we looked at was that time, transport was a criteria because we were not sure how we can implement in a resource constrained area. So we said, can we use it in a transport? If it uses in transport, I'm sure it can be used in a resource constrained area. That is our thought process. But look at the disease state understanding, the level of detail what we go through. So what is RDS? We spend a lot of time. Okay. In newborn, what happens? Okay. What is the prevalence of RDS in newborn? Then how RDS really start? So surfactant is a what do you call it? Internal mechanism by which actually this RDS can be reduced. For example, okay. So there's a lot of alveoli was there in the lungs. So this surfactant actually keeps it open. And if there is not enough surfactant, it will collapse. The whole problem, let me just tell you what the problem is. Newborn babies, especially premature babies, their lungs are not developed. Okay. So when we exhale, the lung collapses. So when they try to inhale air, it is very difficult for them to expand the lungs. Many of you may be familiar with this concept of saying that when you start blowing a balloon, initially it is very difficult. when the balloon is empty. After some time, it becomes easy. So the lungs completely collapses. Okay, expanding it is very difficult. So is there a way I can keep the lungs open even when the baby was exhaling it, so that next inhaling cycle, it is easier. Okay. Now, because of the inhaling exhaling mechanism is inefficient, they don't get enough oxygen. So 21% oxygen is not sufficient for them. You need to provide more oxygen. That's all the parameter. Okay. Keep residual pressure so that lungs kept open during the exhaling time, and give them air oxygen mix more than 21%. That's all what is required. So we understand all of them. So we talk about how it really works and what is preterm birth and health issues in preterm babies. So really we go into the details. So we used to have a medical doctor in our team, so it was much easier to do some of these things. So what are the symptoms? What type of test do they do? Unless you have this level of understanding, you may not be in a position to come out with a good product which meeting all the requirement. Okay. So the point which I'm trying to make is that just being a biomedical engineer or a medical electronics or a software is not sufficient. You must pair with medical technology people. Now, so I told you what exactly the problem. So how do we try to solve the problem? Okay. So let's look at, let me see whether I can slightly bigger. Okay. So the compressed oxygen comes here. So air comes here. It gets mixed in this manifold unit. Okay, so we have a flow sensor and oxygen sensor. Then we also take the pressure from the, because another thing is, see, this is our device. Okay. And after that, we have a lot of tubes coming in, going all the way to the patient, baby. And that also introduces additional resistance to the air going in. The resistance means it puts back pressure. It reduces the flow. So not only you have to generate air oxygen between 21% to 100% at a set flow and pressure. So certain amount of flow is required. Flow you can understand like that. You go, you breathe, you stand in front of a fan. Okay, so you get a lot more air, correct? So that's called a flow. So pressure is actually, it helps you to keep the air pathway at an expanded position. So the doctors know that what type of pressure you need to provide, what type of flow we need to provide, and what level of oxygen they require. So it's simple. It's a controller mechanism with the physics added to it. You can't just put oxygen and air and expect that a certain percentage of oxygen. Okay, it has to be managed at the right level. And when you add this, and then output pressure will vary, flow will vary. So I have to manage these three parameters, okay, as an output, managing the oxygen input and this blower input, which where the normal air comes. Okay, right? So I have only two things to adjust: how much oxygen I can put and how much air I can have it. And what will be the pressure of my, generally the pressure of oxygen gets fixed in the hospital. Okay. And sometimes we put a pressure regulator and stuff, depending on the design. So people can reduce the pressure so that it mixes with the air. The air is going to come with a certain pressure. Both should be of a similar pressure level so that they can mix. So some of those physics we need to understand. And we need a battery. It can work on AC/DC. And we also have a pressure relief valve. Because for some reason, something goes wrong, you can't give a high pressure to the baby. Okay, so there is a pressure relief safety valve. So come what may, you will not deliver pressure more than what is being controlled here. correct? So this is the broadly the functional aspect of it. Okay. Now, this is what really happens in the R&D. So you understood what the disease is. Then you created a concept. All I need to do is mix air and oxygen and provide it at a certain flow and there's a control mechanism. Anything gets adjusted. When the baby breathes hard, the pressure will vary. Okay, the resistance will vary. There are so many things can happen. So your electronics has to take control of some of those things. Okay. Now, then we start doing various prototype, not only for form factor, even for functionality. Okay. So, in fact, I had one more slide, the number of variants what we made. So every time you want to check, because the physics, what I told you, okay, it's not a linear equation. It's a pretty complex equation. So for us to really understand, so we created various models and then figured out, okay, at this pressure of oxygen, at this flow, at this air pressure, okay, this is how I can manage, and this I cannot manage. So in spite of all these things, we will not have all the ranges of pressure, flow, and oxygen. Nobody can provide that. None of the devices provide that. Okay. So we will say that this is a dead zone. So doctors do not provide that. Okay. So now let me just go to the one other point. Okay, while we are making so many things, you need money for that, correct? So this is how internally things people will present. Okay, so now this is for a beta prototype development. Okay, this is for casing. What type of casing we want to have? So the methodology: thermoforming, vacuum forming, injection molding, sheet metal, and there's some fiber material. Okay, and what is the cost? Upfront, I need to make so much cost. And every unit of casing, I have to spend so much money. And how much time is going to take? And what type of tool? So management gets involved in taking this decision. What is the right thing to do? This is the most preferred one. Okay, but it's going to cost me 40 lakhs. Vis-a-vis, this is what we chose, 1.5 lakhs. Okay, so our first version actually was with this, but we were lucky to get some Government of India funding to go for injection molding. By the time we did some modification, in fact, we ended up spending 70 lakhs, and Government of India provided that money for us. And the casing actually cost came down to 1,200 rupees. And this took about 16 weeks. This we did during the COVID time when we modified our final version. Okay, so organization interested in program cost means cost of development, and then bill of material cost. How much is going to cost to make this number? Okay, every component added, every screws and everything is added. How much is going to be the cost? Now from there only I can arrive at the price. Okay, so this is one thing happens. While development happens, you also have a boundary condition. You can't afford to spend more money, and you can't create a product which is more expensive. Okay. Now, we were doing well. Okay, we shipped out about 25 units in between April 2019, or not April, maybe say July 2019 to February 2020 as a pilot. Then came lockdown. So there is a terminology called, I don't know whether Pooja used the terminology, it's called a pivot. Every organization, at some point or other, they pivot to a different direction. So we also pivoted, but this pivot was temporary. Look at this. Okay, 25th of March, nationwide lockdown. Based on the early experience across the globe, protocol is a ventilate the patients. India orders 50,000 ventilators, and they say that we may require more. But we in Axel has got enough experience in ventilator and treatment to using ventilator. So what we found is suboptimal outcome for ventilated patients. 40 to 50% of them, they're dying. Not because of COVID, even otherwise. Okay. And during the COVID, Wuhan study said that 50% of the ventilated COVID patients who died had a secondary infection. Why this 40 to 50% were dying when they ventilate? They all get a pneumonia. It's called a ventilator-associated pneumonia. Okay. This confirmed. So this came in April 2020. So prior study says that spontaneously breathing patients do not require invasive ventilation. It's very, very important. COVID patients can breathe themselves, but they find it difficult to breathe. It is not that they cannot breathe. You need a ventilation, invasive ventilation, only when they cannot breathe. The machine takes control of it. Now, so this is what actually our contribution. We sat in office in the month of April, and we didn't like this 50,000 ventilator being ordered. It was ordered to a company in Mysore. I know the CEO very well. And let me see whether, yeah, this is the most important one. Even globally, people are facing problem in operating the ventilator. Okay, so we decided to upgrade our SaaS, which was for neonate, to SaaS Pro for adult. Now, globally, they started understanding how to control the disease. So they also moved to this CPAP and HFNC, which is a non-invasive ventilation. And US FDA, India ICMR, they published the design requirement. By then, we had started our work and we could complete. So we created it in a record time and we sold about 800 units. Probably we feel that 20,000 patients been impacted. So again here, the disease state understanding is the most important one. Okay, and the need has been identified. Disease has been identified, thorough understanding. And then when I say co-creation with the stakeholder, so what I showed you here, all those things, supply chain, vendor, everybody has been brought to the same platform and telling them what is that we are trying to do, how can they really help us, including the customs officer in Bangalore was one of the stakeholders. We briefed him and he gave his personal number. Is any of your goods gets stuck in the customs, please call me, I'll help you out. Okay, so that is how we did. Okay, then we came back. Okay, the product looked like this. So we came back post to COVID. So we started developing our product further. So that I will say that, yeah, we took care of most of the safety related issue, but it's not fully validated, okay, because of the lack of time and stuff. So this, we spend a lot of time in verification, validation. It is very, very important. Every design output, a drawing, okay, or a prototype parts, everything has to be reviewed. So then only finally you'll get a desired product. Now, so you also test for all configuration, like this is for oxygen concentrator. This is for the oxygen cylinder. So this provides us a very interesting simulator. It's available in JSS in Mysore. Apparently in whole of Karnataka, only one place is there. So it can behave like a lung. Okay, so we can configure and see how our device really works. Okay, and various type of parameters we can set. Great product. I mean, it costs about 25 lakhs or something. So we get pay for time and then go and use it. Okay, and Dr. Ashwini and Abhishek actually were part of this, some of this verification validation, because sometimes people wanted a third party verification validation. So we reached out to BMS, and they are involved in this activities. So these are the various versions. This is the final version. This is how it looks like. Now, I will spend some time in showing you the internals. Let me see, start with, we are all medical electronics students, correct? So this is how your PCB design aspects are there. I've just taken a few of them. Okay. And every circuitry has been expanded here, membrane keyboard here, okay. Oxygen sensor, and okay, current sensor, whereas membrane keyboard circuitry, buzzer control. So all those been designed. Okay. Now, when you design all of them, then let's go into the details of it. Okay. So you saw our device, correct? There, how it looks. So this is how they get assembled. Okay, there's a front cover and the back cover, and you see that all the parts are marked. And there's a huge documentation available in terms of how to really do this assembly. Okay, and this is a front, for some reason it has come out small, PCB mounted. So this is where your oxygen mixing happens within this manifold. And we put all of them together on the front. Okay, there's an exploded view of this. So right from display to this one. This is the bottom. Okay, and this is the back cover. So this is how actually all you design, it really goes in. Okay. So then the huge amount of documentation we create and then give it to the manufacturing people to manufacture. So we don't do the manufacturing by ourselves. We do what we call as a contract manufacturing. Okay. So all them, it's been manufactured and kept. Okay. We do a lot of tests every time, every step here, what I showed you earlier. There is a sequence of tests we do to make sure that things work. Okay. The next comes as the most important one is installation and training. Okay, there's like what 5 devices been installed, and a colleague of mine is training them. Okay, there's a multiple levels of training, and this is in Assam. My colleague speak Assamese, so he did most of the training. I think somebody asked the question, what is the most important thing? What are the problems you face? Training is the problem. Okay, you need to train them. Okay, and initially we had another colleague who gone there. He's from North India, very fluent in Hindi, so he can do the Hindi train. Okay, that's what we had thought. But we were surprised that in Assam, nurses do not speak so much of Hindi. So finally, we sent this guy so he could speak Assamese. So now the device is put onto the baby. So you see that. So this is how actually it's being given to the baby. There's a lot of tubes are there. This is one other thing which probably I didn't tell about you is that this air what comes out is actually enhanced humidification, and also we increase the temperature. Okay, so those are not our product, it's a third-party product. So we need a pressure, flow, oxygen level, warm, and humidified air. That is what to be given to the baby. Okay, now fine, I did a lot of testing, everything I did, okay, but will it fail? It will fail. So we need to have a periodic maintenance, and when there is a service call or a complaint, we should be in a position to manage that. So for example, so I'll just show you a quickly. So we track, okay. So number of complaint installations versus number of complaints, and average closing time, how much time it took to close the complaint, okay, solve the problem. And sometimes the device itself requires a repair. Some complaints are actually more of explaining them, training them and stuff. Some of them actually the device has failed, so device has to be brought to Bangalore for a repair. Okay, so this is what we did. Okay, that's one. So I tried my best to run through from all the way from invention to the deployment and okay. Now quickly, 2-3 questions which I thought was not addressed is that let me just see whether somebody asked the question about invasive medical devices. Yeah, it is important. So so we have models available to understand. So this for another product. This is what the ventilated patients. Okay, so we need some of these things, and probably you require sterilization, and you require sometime animal testing before you take it to the patient. Okay, I think someone asked me economic evaluation of a device. I didn't quite understand, but the way in which I understood was like, if I don't have this mechanism of delivering care, what will we lose? Okay, so years lived with a disability, years of life lost. If I don't have a proper, so you can look, Google for DALI, you will get an understanding of it. Then somebody asked a question, what were the challenges? Training, and nobody wants to change their current workflow. Okay, you need to introduce something which goes with their current workflow. Nobody likes change. Device on epilepsy, I don't have any experience. I didn't have time to look for it. Strength of the medical device industry, I don't know what you really wanted to know, but the impact, what you can create. Okay, let me just word this impact in a different way. So old leaders give back after their retirement, correct? People like Mr. Brenchi or Bill Gates. New leaders give back while working. So building a healthier world through innovation, that's what actually people who are there in medtech. And in your early year only, you start to serve, okay? So how to deliver best solution and stuff. That's it. And I'll stop here and let me just answer questions. And we started about 7 minutes late. So, I mean, I'm okay to spend time as long as you guys are okay. So how do we go about question answer? Like Dr. Vijayarajan, is there any way, best practices? Yes, madam.
We have questions from the students, sir.
Yeah, I'm ready to answer.
Yeah.
If they have put in this
chat box, yeah.
Chat box.
Please, students, if you have any questions, please type in a chat box.
So nothing is available at this point of time for us? No, nothing is available. Yeah.
So otherwise, yeah, the talk was very informative, sir. And you started with hackathon, the idea, how it came, and from an idea to the prototype and the product, and in how it is used in a field study actually, and how it has impacted the patients. Very well explained with the illustration. Thank you very much for your time. And also I thank all the students who have participated, and I think definitely you have some more message to take home and work on it. Sir has explained very well. Thank you very much. And I thank once again sir for his valuable time spending with all of us. Thank you very much. And I thank students also, and thank Dr. Abhishek Mapaji. He is in one more meeting delivering a talk. So I'm hosting the event.
So are there any questions? We have a few more minutes available. And even if you don't want to type, you can just enable your mic and
And yeah, I request all of you to switch on your video for a photo. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Anupa.
okay, so do you have questions? We just
Yeah, otherwise also sir is available. You can ask the questions through Abhishek sir, or sir will be available in through mail also. Thank you.
no questions.
I think they're muted. They're not able to talk, I think.
Is it? It's controlled centrally, or they cannot. But it's good to have some questions, but at least I want to understand
Yeah.
whether my
Student, please,
message.
please type your inquiries or questions in the chat box, please.
These are all which year student? They are in
So they're all third year students, 6th semester students.
6th semester student.
Course called Medical Device Development. As a part of that medical device development course, this talk is arranged, sir.
Sure.
They're learning the design aspects, all those things.
Anyway, actually, I don't know whether we have met. And I designed that subject. And for three semesters, I came and
you handled, yes.
Yeah, I handled that.
Yes,
I know
sir.
what it is. Yeah. So
Industry-driven subject, yeah. You made it industry-driven subject initially, and now.
Yeah, I think students actually, when you're attending sessions like this, when you have access to people in the industry, don't hesitate. You must ask questions. You must ask questions.
Yeah, one question.
It's very important.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. One question from Chinmaya Arbat.
What is that? Let me just see. What are the questions?
I'll see. Sir, as students, how do we convince doctors to be an early part of our medical device development?
Okay, during development or using the device? Let me just take it in 2 steps. Let's say you want to develop a product and you want a doctor to associate with you. The best thing is go and find out what problems he is facing. And then you offer saying that you are ready to explore solving the problem. I'm sure he or she will work with you. That's one. And otherwise, go through some known contact people and establish your credibility, saying that you understand. Okay, don't go with a blank slate. Okay, so then they can work with you because they don't have time, especially Indian doctors are fully busy. Now, if your question is the other way, saying that, okay, having developed, how do I convince them to use? It's not easy because they are very, very risk averse. They keep asking for a lot of data to prove that your device will not do any harm. Okay, so that's why I showed you that Ethiopia study, because when we went to Ethiopia, first thing they wanted is, okay, we need a clinical study. So we said we have done it in India. They said no, you have to do it in our place. So we would like to see. Okay. So that's what happens. Hope it broadly answers your question, Chinmaya. Any other question?
Okay, he said thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Any other questions, please, students?
Sixth semester is a senior enough to ask questions. I thought younger generations will ask questions. Okay, no problem. So hope it was useful. And as the madam said that if you need any additional information, you can approach me through Dr. Abhishek. Okay, I'll be ready to help you guys out. Okay.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank
sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we are signing off this webinar. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, thanks.